I loved my conversation with Ulla with the FAVES app. Just what she's created with this app is pretty cool. So helpful for our retailers. And in this episode, we're talking about technology and inventory and planning and having control over as much of your inventory and your business as you can so you feel that peace of mind and you feel confident and really making you a resilient retailer. The things that we talk about today in this episode really are foundational to the success of a store. And so I am very excited to have Ula here to share her expertise and give you some tips. Before we dive in, here's a little bit more about my guest. Ulla Hald founded FAVES to empower boutiques with cutting edge digital tools. With a background at Apple and expertise in tech driven, user friendly solutions, Ula is passionate about helping small and medium sized retailers thrive in a competitive marketplace. You'll learn more about her app and her experience today. You can learn more by going to her website, thefavesapp.com. And let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to Rooted in Retail. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis. Here, we have engaging and informative conversations with successful indie retailers and industry experts. Together, we learn, connect, and grow. Don't miss our live after the show every Tuesday night in the Rooted in Retail Facebook group. All right, here's today's episode. Ula, welcome to Rooted in Retail. I am thrilled you're here.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, yeah, so we're gonna have this great conversation, and it was so funny actually. Right before we hit record, we were saying like we haven't really chatted, and so we get to know each other more through this podcast today, which I'm really excited about. I think that you're doing some really cool things that retailers need to know about. So before we get into all that, you seem pretty rooted in retail. Will you share a little bit about you and your retail journey?
Absolutely. So the interesting thing is my retail journey is really started from the technology side. So I come from the technology background, and then about 7, 8 years ago, I was introduced to retailers here in Copenhagen and the challenge they have with buying. And then coming from that technology background of creating digital solutions, I was able to say, "Oh, something, we can do something about this." So it's been a journey of deep diving in for intense 7 years, just learning more and more about retailers, about how they are doing their wholesale buying. So that is my background.
I love it so much. And then the company that you started, if anybody is watching this, you'll see the sign in the background, but tell us a little bit about Faves.
Yes, our company is called FAVES. It's a software company that helps retailers organize their wholesale buying. So it's an app, and it's a digital platform that you're able to capture all your buying. You'll be able to plan your open to buy. You'll be able to see what you purchased. You're able to stay on top of whether you get the orders in. So it's a way for retailers to stay organized with their wholesale buying.
Love it, which I think is so smart. Like I was watching some videos and stalking your site, and I'm like, this is brilliant. So of course we'll link to this, and I really encourage our listeners to go check you out. Now, you have a background of working at Apple, which I'm sure there's a lot of innovation and user experience at that company. I'm sure you understand the importance of simplicity and complex environments. So, running a retail store involving managing countless details. Our retailers have so much that they have going on from inventory to customer service. Fill in the gap. There's a lot there. So, what key areas should retailers focus on to simplify operations, reduce overwhelm, and maintain a clear strategic approach?
I think it's about using the tools that are available to actually simplify things, right? Because you can't get around that you have to do all these things, but it's being figuring out where can you level up, where can you utilize humans, where can you utilize technology to lift you up in those places. Because there is an incredible amount of innovation happening in the digital realm, and being able to not to look in and finding out what are those available tools, but also like humans, there is virtual assistants that you can hire in that can support you as well. And digital marketing helps support you in doing those, so figuring out where you can actually get the team around you. because complexity doesn't get less, but it's about utilizing the resources available to you. That I think that's how you're going to get out.
I could not agree more, Ula. I feel I say a lot, who, not how. We don't need to
Exactly.
learn everything. We just can't. It's just not possible.
Exactly.
And I will say, I think that a lot of our retailers, just over the years of talking to them and working with them, I feel like there's a lot of fear or kind of pushback in using technology or
Yeah.
learning technology.
Yeah.
And I mean, we even see it with AI. I talk a lot about AI, and it is actually very easy to use, but there is still some hesitancy and fear. If there's a listener right now who's just does not want to look for the technology, does not want to learn more about the softwares that can really support a store, because there's so many things out there for them.
Mhm.
But if they're really resisting that, what kind of advice would you give to them?
I would say reach out to your trusted resources and ask what they're using and get that in. I totally understand that you have been scorned, or what is that, like hurt by, all these complex tools, back office
Mm,
tools. And you're like, if you only use them intermittently and you have to relearn every time, it's
mm.
frustrating us all. But there are tools that can lift you up, and being able to find recommendations to those. I would listen to the peers. I would ask for support that way and recommendations, and not just dive into the first and best.
Yeah,
Um,
that's such good advice. And of course, anyone listening, you can leverage the Rooted in Retail Facebook group and share. I would love to know, is there a technology that you use that you're like, I love it? At
yeah.
first, I was skeptical or hesitant, but now I can't imagine running my store without it. Let's share and help each other find what's really working for ourselves. And then also, you could combine the who, not hell with the technology, right? Like just having somebody who's exploring those options for you if it is really overwhelming. I'm sure you've seen this a lot too with your software. The more that you use something, you learn it, right? Like we do have to figure it out. And same with Instagram or Facebook, like they'll make a change and it just feels so hard to keep up with. But like the more that we use these, I promise it does get easier. You just got to do it.
Absolutely. Anything, even the easiest thing, is the first taking the first step and letting you in. And it's also about opening up and saying, I'm going to make this work, right? Because if you approach anything where that has, oh, it's not going to work, I bet 100% or 99 it's not going to work. So
Right.
it's all about your mental attitude. So if you want to have something actually support you, go in with an open mind and jump on board in that, and then take advantage of the opportunities to actually get help getting started. So what we do here, we actually have a complimentary onboarding where we sit and help people on board. So we are a little bit of an atypical software company. We're very human based and very much
Mhm.
human forward. And so we want to help people get on board. And I would just take advantage of that, and take advantage of that in every tool that you onboard. Get as much human help getting that in under your skin as possible, whether it's through your peers, through a Facebook group where you can ask in support, but also directly with that vendor you're purchasing from. They want you to succeed.
Yes, they do. And I love that you have that more hands-on approach and that we can work with humans because
Mm,
sometimes we need that. It can be frustrating with these
mm.
bots, even though they can help us.
Yeah,
Sometimes we just need to
yeah,
speak to a person. So
exactly.
yeah. Okay. So let's talk about inventory buying because
Mhm,
this is obviously one of the biggest significant investments that a retailer can make.
mhm.
Yet many struggle with creating a solid strategy. What
Right.
are some of the biggest mistakes retailers make when it comes to inventory buying, and how can they avoid these pitfalls?
So I think that what I see, there's a three areas. One is that to actually not plan, right? So even though it's like the single largest investment you do as a retailer, it's often one that we don't necessarily plan for. And we're winging a little bit more. We will go and buy at market without necessarily knowing exactly what we're looking for and for how much and when. That's one of the things, actually missing a plan and not having a financial plan, like how much do we actually need to purchase in order to have the turnover we expect to have, and when do we need it to happen. So if we go to market, we don't want everything to show up in the same month. We want to plan it accordingly. we also want to make sure that what we buy, and now I'm talking more from a apparel perspective, but it's true for anything that you buy. You want to make sure that you actually have a overview of what you purchase so you don't end up duplicating your efforts. Like right now, I bet so many people are buying cheetah tops, right? Or those tops with bows, and they will be opening boxes in a few months and they're like, oh my goodness, we went a little overboard there. So being able to have a visual overview and remembering what do we purchase, how much, and from whom, that those are three things that are super important. Another thing that is also part of this whole thing is about making sure that things actually come in that you ordered. It's
Mm,
not inventory buying is not complete before the product's actually in your store. And being able to actually stay on top of that. What did we order? From whom? Did it arrive? If not, why not? Reaching out to that vendor and clear it up because sometimes they may decide not to cut that they may not produce it because there were not enough demand, or maybe the quality that they received back was not proper enough to send out. So it could be a lot of reasons. So I would say to shape up, stop winging and start actually being thoughtful about doing it. And then what are the things you want to be thoughtful about? It's a planning, like having a budget, knowing what you're purchasing. So when you're actually going into the purchasing situation, that you know what to look for, that you're not spinning around yourself mixed with a margarita or whatever they're serving. It's like,
yeah.
oh man. And then staying on top of it when you come home, right? Having all those. It's simple task, it sounds, but I get it. It's super complex to do it, but it's also super complex not having being on top of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and I think that can be a fast track to failure. If you are not having that plan, you're not working within a budget, you're not really looking at
Yeah.
how many of these certain items am I bringing in and is that enough or is that too many? I have so much respect for our retailers because that is definitely an area where I would black out, I feel like. You just go
Yeah.
to market, you black out, you buy stuff, and then here you are, you're back, but you've gotta be strategic on what you're buying and really understand your customers, and like you said, work within that budget. So those are really great tips for
Yeah.
our retailers and good reminders. I feel like they often know these things, but how well are we really doing it and implementing it? And then what we were talking about earlier, is there technology to make it easier for you in getting these trends, in managing the inventory? One thing I liked about Faves that I saw on your site was you can visually see everything. So it's almost like this Pinterest board of all the stuff I ordered. So I can see and making sure that I don't have too many dresses with bows. Like it's pretty cool.
Exactly. I like to say like Faves is sort of like if Pinterest and Excel had a baby. Or because it's about being able to have that visual overview, but also have the in-depth details about the financial planning. And even if you don't do a budget, then you can actually see how much you've invested per category per month. So just by you entering stuff, it will actually summarize live in real time. You will, when you're buying or when you're catching information in, it will show you up how much you actually spend.
Very cool. I love it. That's so awesome. Okay, so speaking of technology, it's obviously rapidly evolving
Where,
and staying ahead of the curve is crucial for any business. It can be
yeah.
challenging, but certainly crucial. What future trends do you see shaping the retail industry and how is Faves positioning itself to help retailers navigate these changes?
I think like we all feel like we're playing globally, even though that we are locally. Most brick and mortar stores have an online presence as well. So as soon as you are digital, you are playing globally. That also means you are competitive with everybody if you choose to look that way. It just means that you need to up your game. You need to be sharper about how you conduct your business. You still have to, it's your soul, it's your presence, it's you that define what your business is like. But in order to make sure that you get the most bang for that investment you're doing and having your presence in there, the financial resources, all that you do, you need to just be a little bit tighter about managing that and being able to use technology where you can do that.
For sure. And will you share a little bit more on how Faves is helping support in some of those ways?
Sure. Absolutely, absolutely. So back to when we talked about what are some of the challenges, it is being able to have the visual overview. So imagining that can you imagine all you're buying in one place, whether you're buying online, like you're buying from wholesale platforms like Fashion Go Fair, New Order, Jour, C Supply, any of those, and you bring them in, that you are then able to actually see that visually. So when you're going to market, you can see, oh, what do we already have of tops that are coming in October? So when we're buying bottoms, we can see how do we curate
Right.
across. Or if you're a gift and home store, how are we doing on scented candles for the holidays? How are we doing on, so everything across. So being able to do that, and then also being able to have that planning a budget and being able to have your budget in there and see where you're at with your budget. So you can, when you buy, oh, I don't need to go in and look for more dresses. We are maxed out on this. We need to focus here. So it just allows you to be super laser focused in the buying situation. There's no guesswork. You know exactly where you're at. And then the whole thing about being able to track your buying. So being able to see, what did we order? Now, August is coming to a close. What did we order that we expected to receive in August? Did it arrive or not? If not, I'm going to reach out to that vendor and check in. And there's that FAVES facilitates that as well. So it's being able to support you in that whole flow, but doing it in a way that is super, hopefully, mostly intuitive to how you would normally operate with, Instagram. You take pictures, you tag the pictures, and that's how you do in Faves as well. So it's visually born. You take a picture, you enter the price information, the delivery information by tagging it that way. And by
Yeah.
doing so, that's automatically captured and it calculates everything behind the scenes. So you're getting a nifty spreadsheet without you actually entering anything in spreadsheet, in a
Love
sense.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so cool, and I love how you explain that it's like the if Pinterest and Excel had a baby, like, it's so true on how it's operating that way. You
Yeah.
said something with having that focus,
Yeah.
and it just made me think about you're almost like setting these boundaries for your buying, which
Yeah.
I think is important because I think that sometimes buying can be emotional or
Yeah.
you want it or we're not really thinking about the business side of it, and if it is strategic, if it is within our
Right.
budget, if it does mesh well with everything we already
Yeah.
have, we have
Right.
some of those boundaries, like guardrails,
Yeah.
to help us stay within, what we need to focus on, and
Right.
that keyword focus, I
Right.
think, is so critical for small business owners. It's challenging sometimes, the bright, shiny object syndrome when we're chasing new things, and to
Right.
have some of those guardrails are just really important to help us focus.
It's 100% that. And also about knowing when you deviate, right? Because there may be
Yeah.
something that you see that is absolutely makes sense for you to purchase, but you see that you're above the budget, but then you're making a calculated risk, right? You're not winging it. You know where you
Yep.
stand, and that means you can subtract from somewhere else or move things around. So it just allows you to operate with a feel in your stomach of having control. And that I think that is that. It's not, so many buyers will, like, after a day of market, they'll be sitting in the hotel bed, invoices everywhere, and they're like, "Oh, what did we buy? We need to be on top of it. But tomorrow, what else should we get?" But being able to actually capture it in real time while you're on market,
Well,
so you actually have that view as you're going along, and means that you can actually enjoy that evening when you're in Vegas. Go out and have that dinner without feeling guilt, or in
yes.
Dallas, and enjoy yourself.
That's so true, and another keyword here is that control, and when we are in control, we have more peace of mind,
Yeah.
and I just think there's so many things we can't control, the economy and the election and inflation and all of these things. So let's really focus on the things that we can control, and that is our buying and in our budget and our inventory, and that's a keyword there. We wanna be in control.
100%.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
awesome. Love it. Okay, Ula, are you ready for the resilience round?
I am. I'm excited for
Okay.
this.
Okay, let's do it. Best business book.
So the one I was thinking about, and there's multiple, but the one I go back to and again is the one that's called "The Hard Things About Hard Things" by Ben Harrowich. I had to write the name down just so I get it right. He started a software company, and it's the writing about the journey of this entrepreneurial journey. So it applies to many, but it's, for me, it's there's so many relevant phases of this life of starting some. It is so damn hard, and when we are on the entrepreneurial journey, there's nobody else. We're doing it. We're the first in that choo-choo
Yeah.
train, right? We are the little train that could, or whatever it's called, right? We're doing it. And if we stop moving, we roll back, right? So it's building it up. and making sure we get the people around us and all these things. So yeah, that one I really like.
Awesome. I can't wait to check that one out. That sounds so good. Best retail technology, like an app or software?
Well, hey, this is ironic for what we just talked about humans, but I am so into ChatGPT. It has completely, it's adding so much support to all various different kind of tasks that we do here. And
Yeah.
so it's become a steady companion to me in all sorts of things, brainstorming, writing, like small sentences and all, just so much stuff, or
Yeah.
helping me understand things, feeding information and give me the highlights of this, make sure that I get this, right? It's amazing.
It's amazing. It
Yeah,
blows my mind, the things. I feel like almost every day I use it in a different way because I'm like, "Oh, what about this?" It's
yeah,
just incredible. I so
yeah,
agree.
yeah.
How do you keep up with the ever-changing retail landscape?
I do it. It's really about, I spend a lot of time with our customers, listening, active listening. And then, of course, I listen to podcasts like yours, and others. And I'm present at markets, right? So I
Yeah.
go out and I physically are present. But I really try to connect as many customers as possible. Not every retail, as you very well know, are the same, right? So being able to understand what's going on in the different markets and the different type of retailers, that is how I personally learn and grow, and it's how FAVES evolves as well. So
Mm.
what I always tell our retailers, or the ones that are using FAVES, is please ask questions. Please share your yeah what frustrates you. It's how we're able to serve you better, but it's also
Mhm.
able how we're able to shape and grow FAVES. And that's a huge
Exactly.
part of who we are.
Yeah, you want that feedback. That's the only way that you can be the best that you can be, and yeah, you need people to speak up. Love it. Great ways
Exactly.
to keep up. To help retailers be stronger, more rooted in success, what's an inventory management foundational best practice?
It is, stop winging it. If you are winging it, really just stop. It is, again, the as inventory is the single largest investment, most likely, that you are doing. Start just making a plan and know that plan can change. Another thing is, I have two more. One is build relationships. This business, it's built on humans. So it may
Mm,
be products that we're buying, but it's humans that are creating it, it's humans selling it, it's humans servicing you. Build those relationships. It's going to help you in the long run. When you need that, when you need to cancel, when you need to buy more, having that relationship makes just things so much smoother and more joyful, honestly.
mm.
And then my third one is consistency. Keep showing up. Keep showing up. Iterate on what you're doing. And also, I find for every time I show up, there is some kind of unlock. It may not be directly there and then, but something happens when you're meeting people. Yeah.
It's so true. Great tips. Love it, Ula. If you had to start your business all over again, what's one thing you'd do differently?
This one I really had to think about, and it came back to an advice I got that resonated then, but I didn't get it, and now I really do. Question the assumptions that you make. So
Mm,
what happens is, in our case, it was like we based an assumption that everybody are focused on brands. So when you are building a budget, when you're catching information in, knowing the brand that you purchase from or vendor is the key most important item to have. And it's not so. When we then introduce Faves to the US market, it's all about categories. We're budgeting by category, not brand. So all these assumptions that you make early that just seems, of course, question them. What does that mean?
mm.
Of course you can pivot, but there with something that you are very strict about, question, did you actually look out further? You know?
Yeah. Ooh, that's so good. And I think you can also use ChatGPT to help you question it. Yeah.
Exactly. Very good. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So good. Finally, what do you think the future of independent retail looks like?
I'm very bullish on independent retail, and because I see, and that's back to one of your big interests too, is like the experience really economy, right? It's about independent retail can actually create an experience that is so much more just about selling the same old products that everybody else sells. And what I see now, and especially brick and mortar, is that they're combining things. Like one thing is that they're bringing in, of course, new products. They're creating new products. They're doing collaborative efforts with other partners bringing them in. It may be some of them are actually bringing in like somebody who is sitting there with a sewing machine and fixing things,
Yeah.
and then they're bringing in pre-loved products also, right? It's
Mhm.
like this. And so having that whole experience and not being afraid of trying something, but showing up as your authentically self, right?
Mhm.
What are you bringing? What is it that you are bringing, and make that shine? And I think that we are so starved from that, starved for that
Mm.
right now as consumers. We love when we're meeting somebody who has this DNA of, you feel the person, you feel there's a person behind this, a living, breathing human that have been thoughtful and wants to create an experience. All the commodity stuff that much of the clothing has been come to, we can't compete there. We can't compete with Amazon. We can't compete with these guys. We can't compete there and we don't want to. But what we can do is put our efforts in to create that experience that that brings something unique to the table that only we can do. So therefore, yeah, I'm bullish about it. I really am. So
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, well said. I couldn't agree more. Ula, how can people find more about you and connect with you?
They can find on the website is called the Faves app. So thefavesapp.com. And that's also on Instagram and on Facebook. So
Awesome. Love
yes,
it. We'll link to all that. Ula, thank you so much for being here. This was such a great conversation.
thank you so much for having me. I've just been looking forward to this. Now we're here. And
I
I'm
know.
feeling
That was all of a sudden over.
I
Our
know.
first
I went
our
too
first
far.
date is coming to a conclusion here, and it was a great first date. I love
Yeah,
it.
I do too. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And everyone, remember that I'm rooting for your success. Have a great week ahead. Bye. Okay, I have exciting news to share. The Rooted in Retail Mastermind is launching this January. It's your chance to connect deeper with me, the retail pros from the show, and an incredible community of resilient retailers, both online and in person, with several meetups throughout the year. Get on the waitlist at rootedinretail.com/waitlist. And don't just listen to the show, be a part of the magic and grow your store with us. I hope to see you there.